Well, you're very welcome and good evening. We are providing you with something a little bit different this evening. It's a very special broadcast in these strange and difficult times on this Friday evening. For Irish fans, well, it's a chance to remember a very special Guinness Six Nations campaign and a few moments which we will get to in due course. For rugby fans, you'll get the chance to do so with the special insights from my two guests this evening, Rory Best and Rob Kearney. We'll get to the lads in a moment, but just a reminder that we are doing this tonight for a charity as well. Vodafone have nominated their charity partner Childline for tonight's broadcast. We're asking people who are in a position to do so to support Childline tonight. So if you can support in any way, please do so at the links provided. You should see the links on the stream that you're watching, or indeed you can get the details on the Childline social media pages as well as Vodafone and Irish Rugby also. So thanks very much for joining us. We'll say good evening to Rob and to Rory Best. Rory, you're not playing much rugby these days, so I assume you're not training either. You're trying to keep that farm ticking over. How has lockdown been for you over the last few weeks?
I suppose it's very strange circumstances that having found myself recently retired, I think that transition's hard enough, and then to throw this into the mix is very different. I suppose for me, it's about trying to do the stuff with the farm. My dad was in isolation for a bit because my brother and sister come home from London, so I was doing all the cattle stuff. But it was a nice little bit to get out and about and to do that farming. And it the other bit is to spend time with the kids. It's been really 10 years nearly since my first child was born, Ben, who's in the background somewhere. And you feel that it's only now you realise how little time you got to spend with them when you were playing rugby. So look, we're trying to take the positives in what is an incredibly frightening scenario we found ourselves in.
What about you, Rob? Are you keeping the skills, keeping the hands busy, trying to stay in shape? How tough has it been for professional rugby players with no organised training to rely on?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, the family home is back in County Louth, a little bit outside the 2K radius, so I haven't been able to go home and give too much of a helping hand. But yeah, we've been training pretty hard. We've been given programs on our GPS data that we have to send back on a daily basis, which has been really good to sort of keep us mentally focused and brings a little competitive edge to the training that we're doing in isolation on our own. So, you're just trying to take it day by day, have a little bit of a schedule and set yourself little targets to try and achieve each day and sort of just, keep hoping that we come out the other end of it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Here. You mentioned the competitive edge there. We're going to be seeing a lot of really intense competition over the next hour or so. That call to arms again from a Childline point of view. If you want to do make a donation tonight, no matter how great or small, it will be greatly appreciated. You can log on to the ISPC donate page, which is ispcc.ie/donate dash now, or by texting the number that you can see on screen this evening. We're going to be focusing in a lot of detail on that brilliant afternoon in February 2018 when Ireland took on Wales. It was Warren Gatland's final visit to the Aviva Stadium as Welsh head coach. It was also his 100th test match in charge of the Welsh national rugby side, but it was all against the backdrop of the previous couple of weeks. In match week 2 of the Guinness Six Nations, the NatWest Six Nations that year, Ireland had put 50 odd points past the Italians in Dublin. But the week before that, well, who can remember events in Paris? And what a night it was when Ireland somehow managed to leave with a victory that scarcely seemed possible for a large chunk of that second half. Rory, you were on the bench at this stage. You'd been replaced in the front row. Rob, you were still on the field. So we've joined the action here with a 3 minutes of the 80 left. Somehow Ireland have contrived to be in a losing position, and we've got Anthony Bello standing over a penalty, which Rob would have put 4 between them. It seemed to be slipping away at this stage.
Yeah, it certainly was slipping away, and I suppose when he missed that penalty goal, you know that you're going to get one more chance, albeit from a long way down the field. But Johnny hit that superb dropout, and Ian Henderson again with the superb take. And we sort of just kept going from there. At this point in time, you're just trying to think, get a little bit of gain line, hold on to the ball, and see if you can, something opens up for you. Robbie Henshaw throws me a little bit of a wobbler there that I managed to hold on to. But we're making really good ground now. I suppose you just got to make sure that you're giving yourself time on the ball, because it is slippy, and you don't want any mistakes.
Have you thought back over the last year or so as to what may have happened if you'd spilled that ball? Like, you didn't know that it would have been a grand slam dropping pass, but I guess one of many moments over the following few weeks, it could have been one of those.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of fumbling, but guys taking sort of second touches on them. You're just so concentrated on catching the ball, making sure you don't knock it on, taking contact, and just trying to drive forward and get, inch by inch, and try and somehow get into their half, and try and see what opportunity might come from it.
Rory.
Yeah, I think obviously at this stage now, you know that one more mistake and that's it. It is, the TV doesn't do justice how difficult the conditions were. And all you're really doing is hoping, because you know if you can get into their half, all of a penalty really counts against them, so they become a little bit softer. But when they're in our half, they can still come quite hard, because they know if they give away a penalty, yeah, they'll lose field position, but it's not necessarily a massive chance at losing the game. But you just are trusting the skill level of the boys, and at this stage, it is a lot of hard work and a lot of roll up the sleeves. And game in a Six Nations, you know the ground.
Full back. But this is where you bank on the training that you do during the season. All that bit of mental training that you do as well. Concentration has to be so high that everyone is just on real high alert. No, I certainly wasn't. I certainly wasn't expecting Johnny to have a go from that far out. And when Murray passed him the ball, I was like, "What are you doing? It's way too far out." But he couldn't have struck it any more perfect, and that'll live on in the history books forever.
The desperation and desolation on his face. Where were you exactly there? We can see you joining the celebrations with Johnny, but as he was kicking, you were out of picture. What was your angle on it?
My angle wasn't great because I was out in the touchline. I knew he'd struck it well, but I wasn't entirely sure if it was bang on line with the posts. I was watching Johnny more so than the ball, and I saw the look of shock on his face in midair, which sort of gave me a good idea it was
So
something
it
that he
would have
was
been
liking the look
a
of.
catastrophe, really, for an Irish season point of view if we hadn't somehow left Paris with the win and the rain that night. And it really would have put a dampener on the next few weeks. We know that history was written by Jonathan Sexton on that right boot that night. We went a week later through the Italians and we really started to look like we were finding a bit of form. So those celebrations had to be put on hold once you got back to Dublin. Let's get into the main talking point for tonight, lads. It is Ireland against Wales. It's a February afternoon at the Aviva Stadium. And as we said, it's Gatland's 100th test match as the Welsh head coach. There was a little bit of talk in the media in the build-up, Rory, to this game against Welsh, that we kind of had come to expect from Warren Gatland as we just see the game getting up
I
and
think
running because he became so
that's a
used to it.
bit of
That's what
what Gats
Gats did.
does, and he finds ways to motivate his players, and he'll get the motivation from anywhere. Look, I think that there is definitely, there's probably no secret that there is a little bit of animosity between himself and the RFU, but I think it's so long ago, and if you look at what he's achieved in rugby since leaving Ireland, it's turned out to be not a bad thing for him either. And I think from a player's point of view, we get on very well with a lot of the Welsh boys when you tour with them, say with the British and Irish Lions, or when you play against them in the Pro 14. And yeah, look, I think that for us, it's another test match. You want to beat Wales as much as any of the top teams because that's what they are. They're a top team, and you know that if you've beaten Wales, you've played really well.
We're into the game now, Rob, and a guy I'm sure you know well after playing against him for so many years, Lee Halfpenny. You guys made your test debuts within 15 months of each other, so your careers have certainly been paralleled to each other for over the last 10 or 12 years.
No, it's
With
not.
the
We
kick and
we had
tee, a
pretty
settler
positive
this
exit
early in the
off
game.
the start of the game. Chris Farrell put a thumping tackle in on Lee Halfpenny, and then we just got done for accidental offside. Bundy in that sort of situation is maybe worried about a Welsh player coming through and hacking it forward. So sometimes you just take your medicine a little bit and give them 3 points instead of potentially something more. But when you give a player of Lee Halfpenny's kicking quality, penalties inside your half, you're going to be 3-0 down quite early.
Yeah, so that made it 3-0. And from that point, yeah, that really happened. He doesn't really give guys a let off once you kind of give him that sort of a position. Long to kind of settle into it though, Rory. I get going down 3-0 in front of your home fans isn't the end of the world. Obviously, it might be a little bit different if you're in Cardiff or something. But I guess the idea is that you try and find a way into the game because the first couple of minutes we haven't really had
No,
much of
but
the ball.
it's funny, like Rob said, we actually exited well. Offensively, we were actually quite good, and it was a bit of an offside. It's a reaction from Bundy, but to get the ball back in the kickoff and within a phase or two, and to get a penalty, a chance to level the score, the chance to sort of go it's all square. But as much as anything, it is just a chance to get the ball and to try to, especially with Wales, you want to dominate, you want to try to exert a little bit of physicality, and carrying the ball is one of the best ways to
And
do
it
it.
just shows the importance of winning your own restart too. If you've got a great kick like that, and that's an unbelievable take from Chris Farrell above his head, it gives you a little bit of momentum back into the game.
Was there any
I think
temptation to
it
go
was
for the
always going
corner
to be the
here, Rory, or
points.
was it
I'm not
always
even
going to be
sure
the
if
points?
Johnny, if we even consulted on that one. It's reasonably central. There is a temptation to want to stay down there. I think as it happens, we end up down here anyway. Um, but I think that's one of those scenarios where it's within that kind of field where we like to go with the posts if we can. But look, we get Wales at this stage, and with the way they were evolving and potentially leading into the World Cup, they were trying to play it a bit more expansively, and that's what Scott Williams does there. He throws it forward, and this gives us a really good field position, a really good attacking opportunity, and the first scrum, which for somebody like Andrew Porter, who's coming in because Tag hurt his hamstring, I think 2 weeks earlier, and this is a big moment for him. His first big Six Nations start, and against Wales at home, first scrum, 10 meters out from the line. It's exactly what he wants as well.
I'm
We
not
know Joe Schmidt
entirely
was famous for
sure. I
his
can't
set piece
remember, but
moves, Rob. Was there
I'd
one called
imagine
here?
when you've got a big man like Chris Farrell at 13, you're probably just trying to get the ball to him quickly. There's a little bit of a short side that, when the ball gets to the back of the scrum, that Connor might assess himself, and Keith Earls might give him a shout. But, the Joe Schmidt set plays would more have been, off line out, 10 meters out from our either side of the halfway line.
And I think definitely from a forwards point of view, we talk about how Wales, they try to physically dominate you, and this is an ideal opportunity for us. Like Rob said, Chris Farrell or Bundy, whoever it is, or Rob himself carrying, they're going to get you a good target, and it's just for us to get round the corner and try to get a little bit of quick ball.
You can see, Rob, Johnny had a look long before the ball arrived to him. He knew exactly where Jacob Stockdale was. That is, I know the pressure's off, there's penalty advantage, but
before he received the ball of what's happening on his outside, his peripheral vision is so good. And, Lee Haffney had a tough decision to make.
it's a great bounce back as well, isn't it? Yeah. And Stockdale is in this unbelievable run of form, isn't he, Rory? It's like he's been in 7
Yeah, he was
tests.
just
Of course, he'd
in
get
one of
another
those
one
rich
later in the
veins of
game as
form,
well.
and
But everything
when
he
you're
seemed
in
to
that
touch was
form,
turning
I
to
was
gold.
obviously never in a try scoring form, but when you're in that sort of that run, all you want to do is just want to keep playing. You don't want it to ever stop, and you just want to get your hands on the ball. And yeah, look, he's obviously there's a lot of hard work going in, and he was on the end of an unbelievable pass. But I think the good players, they get themselves on the end of those passes, and like I say, Jacob was just he was working hard to make sure that aspects of his game were improving. And yeah, look at it, and it's great to see. And you see from a forward's point of view, when you've battered and battered and battered 2 or 3 phases, to see that going over in the corner, it's just it's a nice sigh of relief.
No issue with the finish either. We know there's been one or two awkward moments for Jacob over the last year or so, but I'm sure he's learned in that regard as well. So that's
Yeah, on
a
top of
good
Little, I
start.
think
We've
normally
leading by two
we'd
points at
look to
this
sort of
stage.
exit that, and Johnny saw
And
a little
are we
bit of
on top
space,
now,
and
Rob?
that's brilliant play from us to get back up to the halfway line, and all of a sudden we're imposing ourselves back onto Wales, and we're just staying on top of them and playing on top of them, and putting them under pressure. We're getting good quick ball, which allows us to just get into our flow. A lovely tip on from Rory there, and at this point in time, we're certainly the team on top. It is, yeah. But the very pleasing thing is that we're winning all those gain line battles. We're going forward in the carry. Our forwards are pumping their legs in contact, and we're getting relatively quick ball, which is exactly what we want. Big carry there from the hooker. Don't know how that wasn't a penalty.
Sorry, Dave, I'm losing you a bit there. Okay, over to you, Rob. Yeah,
It's a lovely handoff to the face there.
it was. Yeah, it was a funny old game this because it was for two teams that pride themselves so much in their defence. It was quite a high scoring affair. And I know this ends
That's a
up in a
terrible
try. I'm
miss from
pretty
you,
sure.
Rory.
I
At the
know.
highest
It
level
was
to
one
get a
of
real
those that
feel
kind of
for
aligned
these
them up,
opening
and I don't make
exchanges. I
many
mean,
big
how
tackles. And I
physical
thought,
are they,
here it
particularly
comes,
against the
and I
Welsh in their back row?
completely missed him.
Sort of goes a little bit against the run of play, that too.
Yeah, it does, and I suppose it just shows you field how important field position is. You
Yeah,
give
Rory,
Wales a
just
line
talking about
out
these
down
opening
there, and
exchanges,
that
particularly
came
against a side as
from one of
physical
our
as the Welsh.
mistakes, I think, and then off the went. And as soon as you get a team, a bit of momentum in front football, that missed tackle by me, then it's so hard to fold around the corner, and then you get narrow.
Yeah,
And I don't know how you boys cope out wide when we start doing that. Look, the bouncing ball is always hard to defend.
yeah. I think we got stripped up their other end of the field, and that was something that Joe was obviously always very adamant about. That when you go into contact, you make sure you take the ball back, and that's one example from damage that can be caused off getting stripped on the ground.
Yeah, and it's funny now.
I need you to
We're,
turn off the
we're what are we, ten,
Netflix and everything. It's killing my.
5 down? I still felt like
Yeah, I need. That's killing me.
where you
Sorry,
need to
I'm
be
sorry.
against Wales. I still
I need
felt
to
we're
move
in
my
a really good
Netflix and
place
everything.
near our own 22, and a couple of phases later they score, which they're more than capable of doing. But I think we were in the game. We were very much in the game, and we just needed to control the ball a wee bit better.
It's a nice attacking platform here for us again. Chris Farrell, like I said, when you've got a man that big, he's hard to stop. He just gives you front football straight away.
Yeah, because remember this. Remember looking at this penalty in the review. I'm pretty sure we all kind of thought that it was a wee bit of a. I think because Gareth Davis goes down as much as anything. As
I have to go
Johnny
in
and
and I have to go in and
Liam
protect
Williams.
Johnny there.
He's very lucky that Liam Williams. So there was two boys that don't mind a bit of a scuffle, but I think it's because like obviously we knew that Wales man watch a bit in defence, and that's the way they defend, and they're very aggressive with it. But this guy also loves an intercept, and we wanted to run those short lines and try to sit them down. And obviously you're a bit more of an attacking threat, but we're just going to Glenn Jackson there. And look, I think from a captain's point of view, you're not changing that decision, but you're maybe putting a bit of doubt in his mind the next time, because that was one of our targets was to do some short runners and maybe go behind them and hope that they did the same again. That you kind of put it in his head that the ball actually went behind him, and this obstructed by Bundy.
No, he wasn't, and it wasn't a penalty, and it's so frustrating when you're out in the field and the ref gives a penalty against you for something that wasn't illegal, and you have to go up and have a chat to him, knowing that he's not going to change his mind, but you never know how important that those 3 points could be at the end of the game.
Yeah, I'm just putting that bit of doubt in. You hope that you get them back eventually, and that it swings around to us. I think that, to be fair to a ref like Glenn Jackson, he played the game, he knows, and he's a very fair ref, and he's a good ref, and you know that you're gonna get it's gonna be 50-50. There's not going to be where a ref's completely against you. I think it sort of showed their intent here as well, that they wanted to get, there's that magical number, and especially in big games in the Six Nations, where if you can get beyond seven, you get yourself to more than 7 points. For us being at home, it just puts so much more pressure on us, and like that's a long old kick at the Aviva Stadium to go for. I don't think Johnny agreed with the penalty.
No, it just shows their intent to try and build the scoreboard early and just, to trying to take that three instead of going to a corner.
Don't forget, you can contact the lads tonight via our social media channels if you want to put any questions to them during the broadcast on what you're seeing here. We are looking at, of course, a Irish win over the Welsh at the Aviva Stadium in February 2018. And it's all in aid of Childline tonight, who've been nominated by their charity partner Vodafone. So do make a donation if you can, no matter how great or small. It will be appreciated. So we're just under a half an hour into this game, as you can see. And that Gareth Davies try has Wales winning by double figures. So this first half, a little bit on it, a knife edge at the moment. And you just need to keep a lid on things at the moment, Rory, is it? That Wales are just in a little bit of a purple patch right now and limit the damage as best as possible. And no better man to do that than Dan Levy getting over the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an incredible talent over the ball for somebody that's so, he's tall as well, but he's just very athletic. And he doesn't sort of flinch out of it. I think the best poachers in the world are the ones that when you see someone to come clean them out, they just keep the head down and they don't. Whereas some guys, if you brace for a second, that's when you're easy to clean out.
How much of a loss has he been over the last year, Rob? I guess it's difficult to even put into words because he had such an outrageously good 2018. What about Dan Bigger, Rob, and his ability in the air? There are very few better than him, even if you did try to have a little bit of a stab with the boot there. In the Virgin Media box, Rob, in the Virgin Media box. Rory, did you have a word with the referee there, questioning as to whether it was the right call on his behalf to make a decision change based on the big screen footage?
Yeah, because it was actually a slight law adjustment that had just come in, where they said that the referees could previously, the referees actually weren't allowed to adjudicate on what was on the big screen, which seemed a bit ridiculous, and they tidied that up. So I just sort of, just on the off chance that you could get away with one, you kind of said to them, you know, look at Rob Kearney. There's no way that he possibly would have cheated. And it was, look, it's like we were sort of saying earlier as well. It's just about trying to put a little bit of pressure on the ref. You know that Alman Jones is going to be putting plenty of pressure on him, but like I think ultimately, it was the right decision. But sometimes you don't get many little lulls where you can actually go up and say something to him.
So. And we're in a little bit of trouble now, aren't we? We definitely need the next score.
and sort of creating a little bit more momentum and playing on top of them again. That's a lovely pass from Murray to Kearney, who's gone onto the ball, and this is where we want to be, down under 22, building pressure, holding on to the ball, and sort of keep trying to attack them.
And Rob, you getting your hands on it as well. We're getting very close here, and there's a penalty advantage as well. It's a very different feeling, Rory, when you're at home and you're getting towards half time. I mean, how conscious are you of the way the crowd are getting behind you here?
I think especially when you get into the opposition 22, you can sort of feel that lift, and honestly, especially at home, it nearly does give you an extra yard. You can see something happening and you're kind of trying to get there, but when you're at home and you get that electricity that there is, it gives you just a wee bit of a yard to make sure you close up the gap to clean out or to get in position to carry or whatever it is. But look, it's nice, and this opportunity, you don't want to be outside 7 just because they're not going to win the game here, but we could lose it if we let the scoreboard get away and the pressure builds. So it's important now, get within 7 and then sort of see, we know we're close to half time and you can get in. You're dealing with some of the best coaches in the world, so you can take stock with them and see where you need to improve. But with 5 minutes to go, to bridge that gap and then give ourselves another platform to attack from is where you want to be at this stage. Obviously, you'd like to be ahead, but when you're more than 7 behind, to give yourself these opportunities.
We know you're the captain here, Rory, but Johnny Sexton is as strong a personality as there is in Irish sport at the moment, and as there's been for many years. Where does he make the call, and where do you make the call? For the example, has he decided here, no, we're going to take the points, or was that your call here?
I think we would take a lot of decisions together. I don't think Johnny would ever point at the posts without sort of going, what I would think, and I wouldn't do that without talking to him just to make sure that he's happy. It's the right thing to do. But I think you get a lot of these decisions here are quite, they're quite straightforward. Like I said, the scoreboard, the pressure that we've had to absorb a little bit, and then to get back within 7, were very important. And I think knowledgeable rugby players would appreciate that was the right thing to do. And just sometimes I don't even need to say it's great, especially if you're out of breath, having worked hard. But someone like Johnny can just go. He knows what we're doing as well as anyone.
So we're back to it in 5. And they're keeping it in the forwards here, Rob. Is that, from your point of view, the best way for this last minute or so to play its way out, or are you desperate to get your hands on the ball?
No, I think if you look at it, the last few rucks, Wales haven't been, putting too many people into the ruck. They've been trying to sort of get defensive width, so in those sort of incidents, you try and keep it a little bit tighter. And if they do maybe put 2 or 3 bodies into a breakdown, well, then there might be a little bit of space somewhere else. But, our forwards were carrying so well that day. We were getting over the gain line all those times. So, when you're in a position like this, you keep relying on your forwards, likes of CJ, with that carry there, just to get you over the gain line.
Hands off.
Yeah, CJ Stander getting through an absolute mountain of work, as he does in every game. So we're getting very close here, Rory. Is there a sense in the field this is a big moment, or can you deal with such small moments when you're in the thick of the action, as it were?
I think you're just in a position to put pressure on. I think from our point of view, it is just about putting pressure on. It was one of the things we talked about, as exerting ourselves. This is one way to do it. And, Rob talked about the forwards carrying, but if you look at the speed the backs are reloading, and that gives us so much, because they all of a sudden they can't get narrow in defence. They have to respect the fact that our wingers or fullbacks or centres are loaded and ready to go. So it just makes those yards a little bit easier to get. And you don't have a sense, it's the last play, and you just really, all you want to do is get over the line and sort of make sure that what a perfect time to score. And like Bundy, he rides that tackle, reaches out to score. It's very much the last 5 minutes of that half, I'm sure from a coach's point of view, changed the halftime team talk. But from a player's point of view, it gives you a bounce running off the pitch. We went from being more than 7 behind to all of a sudden a chance to go ahead with a conversion. And, that just gives you such a massive lift.
Yeah, it's a huge moment to score, Rob. I know it's good to score a try at any stage, but to go in front, the cup of tea at half time tastes very different, as Rory was saying. How different is the team talk from Joe Schmidt, or would he still have the ideas that he needs to get across to you set in stone, regardless of how that last minute or so played out?
Yeah, I'm sure his messaging probably would have been the same, but our whole energy in the changing room would have been, completely different had we not got that try. And subsequently as well, Wales would have gone into their changing room very much downbeat. They were, 7 points up before that, and now all of a sudden they're looking at the prospect of going, 2 points behind, going back out into the second half. So you talk about championship minutes, those either side of half time, and what a time to come up with a try. Bundy hits a superb line. Scott Williams is sort of watching the ball at the bottom of the ruck and hasn't really had a look out at what's happening on his periphery, and Bundy just catches him off guard and has more than enough strength to make it over the line.
So we've gone from being 8 back to 2 in front. I appreciate if many of you are watching, wherever you are watching tonight, that broadband may be patchy. Such are the joys from working from home. I had my own struggles there during that first half, as I'm sure you would have seen. And Gerard has been in touch on Twitter, Gerard Fitzpatrick, wondering if the breakup in my connection was due to the fact that I was ordering a takeaway. But I can assure you, Gerard, that it was a glitch in the system rather than anything a little more sinister. So halftime, a quick word, Rob, on your memories of that halftime team talk. Is there anything that stands out, or have you been part of so many Joe Schmidt halftime team talks that it's difficult to pick anything out from an individual afternoon?
Yeah, it is difficult. I don't remember a huge amount from it, but we'll all just be on such a high coming back in after that first half. We hadn't played our best rugby. We'd given up some cheap penalties, and certainly their try was very much against the run of play. But how we finished that half, we'd have taken a huge amount of confidence from it. We're not playing well, but we're still in the front. So the message would have been, imagine what we can do to these guys if we start playing a little bit better.
Okay, well, let's get into the second half, because the context is Ireland are 2 from 2 in the 2018 championship. They've beaten the French, they've beaten the Italians, and now they're leading halfway through their game with Wales at the Aviva Stadium. A reminder that we are broadcasting with Rory Best and Rob Kearney tonight in tandem with Irish Rugby and Six Nations Rugby. And of course, our charity partner tonight is Childline, nominated by their charity partner Vodafone. If you do want to make a donation, you can donate online, ispcc.ie/donate-now, or you can text the number that you can see below on your screen. So Ireland back out on the field. A try in that first half for Jacob Stockdale, one for Bundyaki, and Ireland leading by 15 points to 13. I guess, Rory, you're looking to make a slightly better start to the second half than you did the first.
Yeah, I think we're just looking to I think you sort of feel if we can kick long, that they'll get it, they'll kick it back to us. And look, Wales aren't a team that necessarily kick the ball off the pitch much. But you're kind of hoping that they're going to kick long and give us an opportunity to attack them. And yeah, I think you've got a little bit of a freshen up at half time. You've got a bit of a refocus. The coaches have come in, said a few things, and I think for us the try towards the end is a really good one, just to tell them that we're in a really good place. Just to keep doing what we've been doing well, and then get back in. And they've now kicked it back, and Rob gets to carry it back, and all of a sudden we have the ball after less than a minute into their half, and it gives us a chance to roll up the sleeves and attack them again.
Andrew Porter making his first Six Nations start on that Saturday afternoon in Dublin. No Tyke Furlong, no Ian Henderson either in that game. Robbie Henshaw also injured. Ireland were missing a few bodies, but it's an illustration, Rob, of the strength and depth that it didn't really have an effect. Joe Schmidt really had built a squad that had so many options contained within.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think this was potentially Chris Farrell's first Six Nations start. And, just to highlight your point about having strength and depth, and he was superb, and I think he was man of the match on the day. And, like you say, it just showcases the depth that Joe had built over the few years prior to that.
Stop here.
I'm not sure I want to see what's coming up here next.
Yeah, just going to say we've got a An interesting moment involving Rob Kearney coming up where he gets a little bit too big for his boots. We'll let you talk us through it, Rob.
Yeah, I should have given it to Rory to strike. Well, listen, I've tried a few of them down through the years. Some have come off. A lot of them haven't come off. But it's a little bit just of a shot to nothing. Provided you hit the ball dead, you know you're going to get a 22 restart back, and you can sort of build a little bit. You can get your momentum back into the game there. It's just when you are kicking it, you need to make sure that you do kick it dead and not into someone's hands to sort of give possession directly back to them. But like I say, it's a little bit of a free shot, a shot to nothing.
It's not like you don't have previous. I think Leinster fans will remember an absolute raker you landed in that Heineken Cup semi-final, 8 years ago now against Clermont. So it's in your locker, as the old adage goes.
Well, it was
so 3 minutes into the second half.
A very different strike to the one I just hit there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But we're going well now, Rory. We do seem to have settled into our groove in the early minutes of this second half, where you guys can now start to go through the phases, keep the ball, pick one or two of these set-piece moves off a line-out and scrum that Joe Schmidt is so fond of.
Yeah, and I think from turnover there, we've just seen that Connor put the ball up, and Jacob couldn't get it, but he tackles Dan Bigger. Dan Bigger didn't like it, and while he's remonstrating with the ref and sort of not focusing on the game, Dan Levy turns him over, and I think off turnover, especially now in the modern game, it is some of the best ball you can attack off. The defences are a little bit unstructured. You're front foot and you're not expecting to have it. And yeah, I think we really utilised it well. It was a lovely line from Carnes and Earlsey with great footwork. And how Connor held onto that pass, it just shows the class of the player he is. But we're now into their 22, which is where we want to be. And again, the forwards just need to muscle up and physically dominate and try to get a little bit of front foot ball.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary piece of handling from Conor Murray there to keep that move going. And it's probably no surprise, Rob, that we are keeping it in the forwards here. These pick and goes are something the Welsh were struggling with in the first half, so it's more of the same, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. The first 40-minute proved that our forwards were winning those contacts up front, and it took us 4 or 5 carries there to get over the line, and that's superb strength in Rory's carry before that, CJ then after, and then a super finish from Dan Levy there, who had a lot of work to do, but that's why we would keep it tight in those instances.
That's tries from Bundy Aki, Dan Levy, and Cian Healy got one that day as well, Rory, all for within a couple of yards. Is that something that was talked about in the build-up? We almost look like Exeter Chiefs there at times. Or were Wales vulnerable in your eyes from those sorts of situations?
I think it was a strength of ours, and we sort of felt that we could. Like we've said a couple of times, if you want to beat Wales, you've got to muscle up sometimes and take them on. And we did a lot of latching work, and we talked about trying to throw 2 people, because they want to come off the line hard, they want to hit you hard. But if we can throw 2 people into that tackle and keep getting inches very quickly turn into meters, and that was where we want to be. And look, I think that sort of became a bit of a latch. I ended up nearly tackling Dan Bigger off the ball, and Dan Levy got through, but it really our tactics just to physically try to bash them up a little bit, because we knew that's what they'd be coming to Dublin to do to us.
So into the last 30 odd minutes of this second half, it's a sizable lead now, Rob, from an Irish point of view. But you know how much firepower is in this Welsh team. We see what will happen over the next half an hour or so, that any mistake is probably going to be punished.
Yeah, it is. But, I think the good thing is that we're in the driving seat now, and the game is certainly ours to lose, isn't it? We get another 3 points, and then you're into a 15-point margin then, which is, it's a big ask for them to try and climb back to.
What was the battle in the front row like that day, Rory? Because you had Andrew Porter starting his first Six Nations test match alongside you in that front row against an old adversary of yours in Ken Owens.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because there's quite a few resets in this game, and I know people, particularly watching at home, don't really want resets, and they think it takes a lot of time out. But ultimately, it's hard to speed up the process while keeping safety as the paramount importance. I think there might be something that in future they might look at stopping the clock, because they do go on a long time. But we knew that Wales, especially Rob Evans, if you let him dominate what he wants to do, it can be a tricky day because he's so powerful, and he almost goes from 0 to 60 in no time at all, and he can get caught.
Incredible strength from Sexton there, albeit with a little help from his friends. And that's Ireland just primed for what they were doing so well, really throughout that Six Nations Championship. It's another close-in try, and an old mate of yours, Rob Keane-Healy. I think he's only got 5 tries for Ireland. A lot of them in his career have been from this sort of range. What sort of an athlete is he? Because I would imagine it's virtually impossible to stop him from that sort of situation.
Yeah, he's a freak of an athlete, isn't he? And that's why Conor would have been looking for him there 2-3 meters out from his own line, because if you can give him the ball when he's got a little bit of momentum running onto it, that he's going to be very, very hard to stop.
Still just 32 years of age, Rory. We hear that front rowers, second rowers get better with age. How much do you think we still have to look forward to from Keane-Healy?
Yeah, I think that Keane has a lot. A lot of it'll be how long he wants to play, and I know he wants to keep playing for as long as he can. I think I don't know if he's joking or not. He's that mad. He mightn't have been joking that he was talking about trying to play at least 40. But yeah, look, he came in at such a young age. His body's taken a lot of traffic. I really hope that it holds up, and that ultimately, that when he does retire, it's because he's decided that he's done enough, and that he can walk off the pitch on his own accord. But yeah, look, he's a fantastic athlete, and he has got better over the last little bit through sheer hard work. I think one of his failings maybe when he first came in was he was this explosive, strong animal, but when you got him tired out, he made bad decisions because he maybe wasn't quite as fit as he should have been. And in the last few years, his fitness has gone through the roof, and it's because you see him working so hard. Like the lead up to the World Cup, on his days off, he was doing extras, and he has really added another string to his bow. But this far out, he is just, having played against him, he is nearly impossible to stop if you don't get it right. And I think in the ref mic, remember Pete was shouting, "I latch you," and I would be saying the same to him. Now, why would you want anyone other than him carrying that ball?
Yeah, the Welsh, they didn't really have an answer for him there. So we are sitting on top of a pretty handsome lead at the moment. Keep your questions coming into us on social media. You'll be delighted to know, Rory, that Bob Brown has been in touch on Facebook telling us that he's just finished your book and he thinks it's a great read. So there's a free plug for the new book as well.
Good man, Bob. Glad you enjoyed it.
Eileen Lennox is watching on Facebook as well. She's playing Zoom bingo, but we thank you for at least maybe keeping half an eye on tonight's broadcast, Eileen. Don't forget, if you are watching and you are in a position to do so, we encourage you to make a donation, even a small one, to Childline. You can text the number that you can see on your screen, or you can donate online at ispc.ie/donate-now. So it's now time for Wales to start this comeback, Rob. And they kind of own the last quarter of this game, or certainly much of the next 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, they do a little bit. We get a nice turnover there, a lovely pass from Conor out the back to Earlsey, and all of a sudden we're back down there again with the chance of, Earlsey's only, half a metre away from that. But Wales want to play. They know they're up against the clock. They have to score pretty quickly. So they're playing a little bit more expansively. They're trying to force things a little bit. But, like we know, that the next 10 minutes that they produce now is some pretty good rugby.
I think as well, Rob, it showed the restarts. I think almost every short restart in this game went to the team that kicked off. And obviously we'll see a little bit later on that nearly proved catastrophic for us. And it is just such an attacking weapon. I know it was something that before I was coached by Joe, it was very much kick the ball long and you hope a team kicks it back to you, whereas he nearly had a bit more of the strategy of let's kick short, let's just make sure we get it back by trusting our own skills.
Stay there, move. Hey, come here.
We're getting close to a crucial moment in this game where the Welsh drag themselves back into it. and it's off a pretty decent attacking position from an Irish point of view. You thought you had your hands on it there, Rory, and we're going to get Ireland back in the front foot.
Yeah, it was very much. Most of the time when I get my hands on it, I'm looking for a pass. Because when you get to my age, I suppose I'm 36 then, the less tackles that you can be hit by some of these big Welsh players, the better.
We got a glimpse of Alan Wynne-Jones there, Rory. He's still going. He's almost certainly going to be the all-time caps holder once play resumes and we get out of this COVID-19 crisis. What sort of an opponent has he been over the years? Because we've mentioned it before, your careers were pretty much parallel for the last 15 seasons or so.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal competitor, and he just has this ability. I think that he gets underestimated how skillful and how good a rugby player he is because he is such a big engine and he works so hard. And you look at some of his offloading, even in this year's Six Nations in that Wales game at home, the offload he threw for their try was some of the best you'll see, but it's probably not what he's necessarily renowned for. But I think probably his big thing is just, and the reason he's such a good captain from a player's point of view is that he's just so likeable. He's just a nice guy. I was lucky to room with him several times in New Zealand when we were away with the Lions, and unfortunately for me, he's also a bit of a feeder, and that he was bringing in sort of food and bits and pieces of sweets, which is definitely what I didn't need. But yeah, just a great guy, and you want to play for him because of that.
I wonder if Joe was watching tonight, Rob, and if he might pick up on some points of analysis that he missed on the day itself and send them to you.
I'd say there's very little chance of that. Joe would have watched this game 4 or 5 times by the time our video review comes around. So I'd say the chances of him missing something are slim to absolute none.
So into the final quarter. Ireland obviously in the box seat, but one Welsh score and you feel that everything is back on the table. They almost trademark Conor Murray box kick, which certainly in 2018, Rory, just worked to such incredible effect.
Yeah, like he's a fantastic player, and I think he probably got a bit frustrated around this time because everyone was talking about his box kicks, but it's just because they were so good. They were right on the money. I obviously don't spend a lot of time underneath them, but I'm sure they're an absolute nightmare to deal with for the opposition. But I think with Conor, it's everything else he does. It's the speed he gets to the breakdowns, the pass, the accuracy, and all of that. But just the box kicking is really the sort of almost the icing on the cake for it, because it's this real moment where you can see how good he is.
So you're just hoping the defensive line holds up here, Robbie. How much communication is going on in these moments when the Welsh wave is coming right at you? We can see the line sort of splinters there, and you're not left with much of an option. Take out the ball carrier in Navidi, but Shingler's going to finish it off.
Yeah, I suppose when you see a forward, you just try and hope that you put their pass under pressure a little bit. But that was a really good pass from Navidi there. Again, it all came from a very good box kick that I lost in the air from Dan Bigger again, which was a huge frustration for me on the day, but it just shows the importance of those aerial battles and the impact that they can have on the subsequent 2, 3, 4 phases. And we're scrambling at this phase, and Wales took us from one touchline to the other touchline, and we're narrowed up and we're sort of chasing shadows a little bit.
You had to come a long way. Sorry, Roy.
I think you see the great thing about rugby in that everyone is so interdependent, and as forwards, when you look at that phase just before they scored, we were slow to get around the corner, we were slow to get width, and that left certainly Jacob in no man's land outside us, and then it left Rob trying to defend a 2-on-1. Whereas if we could have just been a little bit quicker, got a little bit wider, got a little bit more certainty as to who everyone has, then it leaves it a lot easier for the boys on the edge. But this is sort of 62 minutes into a test match, and you can just see now that boys are starting to get a little bit tired, and the brain just isn't functioning as quickly as it was at the start of the game.
And you'd expect Lee Halfpenny to be slotting those. Suddenly it's a 1-score game. You might question, Rob, Jacob Stockdale's decision to bite down there and shoot out of the line, but he makes a very similar decision in about 17 minutes time that ices the game for Ireland. So
yeah, it does.
overall, like, I mean, it swings and roundabouts.
It does, and listen, it's a tough place to defend out there on the wing sometimes, and like Rory said, if the forwards get a little bit narrow and our defensive line gets condensed, you can be in a position there where Jacob is all of a sudden looking up and he's having to defend 30 meters against 3 or 4 players, and he's trying to make a decision in a split second, and that one didn't come off for him. But like you say, thankfully the one towards the end of the game absolutely did.
Rob Sinnott's been on YouTube admiring your facial hair, Rob, which you seem to have put a lot of time into, given how much time you do have on your hands during this lockdown period.
Yeah, Colbeard, all for charity. The Leinster team did a shave or dye, and I decided to do shave and grow.
Well, it's a timely opportunity to mention that charity we're working in tandem with tonight in Childline. Still plenty of time to make a donation on ispc.ie/donate. So the game is right back in the balance here, Rory. And again, we're 7 minutes from time, looking to seal the third leg of a potential Grand Slam. At this stage, as so often happens when the benches start to roll on, roll off, you're watching from the stands, just like you were against the French. That uneasy feeling, knowing that no, it's no longer in your control. There's nothing you can do to influence matters over the next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, and I think that these are the little moments that you try to chase a little bit, and actually Chris Farrell had the ball and just dropped it, because with a kicker like Johnny, you give yourself a chance to go 10 points ahead with 7 minutes to go, 8 minutes to go. You have a real opportunity. Now the bench has come on, and they were actually, when we did the review of the Italy game 2 weeks earlier, we criticised the bench quite a bit. Joe been quite tough on the bench because their impact wasn't good enough, and we'd lost points in the last quarter, which if the championship came down to points difference might matter. And I think this is a great example of what a bench can do for you. I think we end up with a penalty from this scrum, which we end up having a chance to give us that 10-point buffer.
Yeah, there it is. That's an absolutely huge moment, isn't it, Rob? You're giving all the credit to the forwards, because they have done something huge for the team there. There's a shot at goal to make it a 2-score game with 5 minutes left. A massive moment. Yeah,
massive turning point. And the clock is at 74.5 minutes, and that this next phase of play and the kick at goal is going to eat into another 90 seconds, 2 minutes time, which if we do get the kick, it makes it very difficult for them then to get 2 scores and get themselves back into the game. But Rory talks about a bench coming on there, a new front row, and what a perfect introduction for the game to get a scrum and to get a penalty off it. You can see. Although
you're not showing much emotion there, Rory. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so nervous, so these are the moments, and like, you don't want to count your chickens in this. Conor now practices these is what he wants. He wants the camera on him in a clutch kick. He just loves to kick it as hard as he can. I think he closes his eyes a lot of the time when he kicks it, but they tend to go over. So fair play to him. But the boys at the bench, coming on, Sean Cronin in the middle of that, spearheading that scrum, winning. Those are the moments that you need. If you're going to win Grand Slams, you're going to win championships. Those are sort of
Joey's
championship
come on for Johnny
at
this stage, Rob. And Conor Murray's never a guy who's shied away from the pressure moments, albeit a little bit of help from the paintwork on the inside of that post. They're the sort of moments where you're thinking to yourself, today is our day.
Yeah, that's a huge moment, and it does just sneak in, but still to have the confidence to step up in a big Six Nations game like that and to take it on is it takes a lot of guts, and for him to produce it for a guy who doesn't get a huge amount of practice of it in games and big moments, that was a superb kick.
And really, Rory, a team with the experience of Ireland, you should have been able to just close the game out from here, shouldn't you? That there should really be no way for Wales back into this game. What went wrong over the next couple of minutes here?
I think you lose the restart, and you automatically just put yourself under pressure, and we make a few decisions that, like, that's a lovely offload. It's very hard for Fergus McFadden, to do anything other than that. He tries to tag the ball, but they offload, and they've got exactly what they want. They've actually now got a little bit of momentum. They've got themselves after the conversion within 3 points, and they're ready to go. And these are the moments whenever you just want to control the restart, you want to get it back, and when you don't, you have to try to get your defensive alignment as quickly as possible. And we just shot out of the line a little bit, and we turned what was a reasonably solid line into a 3-on-2, and then eventually a 2-on-1, and again sort of leaving Rob at the back there with nothing else to do but absolutely smash Navidi after he passes it.
The fellow without the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been sold a pup a couple of times in this game, Rob. I guess the guys who have shot out of the line and have maybe made a defensive misread, they know themselves. They don't necessarily need you to bring it to them in the aftermath, do they?
No, like you're all in it together. We all make mistakes, and I made that mistake by kicking the ball out of Bigger's hand in the first half, and you sort of just get on with it. There would never be any sort of finger pointing underneath the post at that time. You're just thinking, right, let's kick it long and make sure we don't give any more penalties away or allow them back into our own half.
What was being said beneath the post on that occasion, Rob?
You're just sort of calm heads. Let's walk back to the halfway line, eat into the clock a little bit, and sort of tell Joey to kick it long, probably into one of the corners. And you won't contest the breakdown. You'll try and keep 15 men on their feet in the defensive line, and just go hard with your line speed and aggressive, and make sure that we're not giving them easy yards to get a chance to get back down into our half.
And that's what they do, Rory. For the second time in a couple of weeks, you're sitting on the bench chewing the fingernails to the quick, watching a potential Grand Slam, potential championship ebb away. It's a horrible position to be in.
Yeah, it is, and it's easier when you're on the pitch because you don't, all the emotions of the if buts and what can be lost by losing the game aren't in your head. All you're thinking about are the next moments, and even sitting on the bench, so you're just thinking, look, make Wales play from deep, and like Rob said, make your tackles, get numbers in the feet, make the tackles, and make them make a mistake, and to give them a penalty there, it just gives them field position that they would have worked a lot harder to get if you had made them run the ball. And we're having to work hard. If it's Quinn or James Ryan nearly get that turnover in the line out, and that's all you're needing now. You're needing everyone to trust each other, to stay in the system, and to just wait for the opportunity. When the opportunity comes, I suppose be man enough to have a go and to put yourself forward and take it.
Well, it's coming now, Rob. This is just one of the many amazing moments from this Grand Slam year, where we mentioned Jacob Stockdale making a call that you could argue was a big mistake about 15 minutes ago, making pretty much the same call now as we're about to see, and it turns out to be the winning of the game.
Yeah, it does, and I think it's a great sign of someone's personality and character. You look back at that time he
comes out of the line, Rob. Talk us through what you're seeing now. Incredible.
Yeah, he's coming hard, and you're thinking, is he doing what he did?
Intercept king that I am. Should I take that one?
You take that, Rory. What a moment.
The big one between that one and the one we talked about at the start of the game is we have a lot more defensive integrity. We've given him the opportunity to almost have a split second to read the ball in the air, to go on the pass, rather than, because we were on the back foot, he was having to guess because we weren't set, we weren't making impacts, whereas we got the inside line ready to go, and he didn't have to go before the pass. He didn't make the decision easy for the player. You look where Jacob is. As Scott Williams passes that, Jacob is probably a metre behind our line, and he just accelerates on the ball release and picks that up, and he got incredibly good at that. And a lot of it is he worked very hard in training, to be fair to him, to make sure that those moments that he could take them, and that is a skill in itself. And I was very,
What's
very
the overriding
relieved to
emotion
see
there,
him.
Rory?
Oh, I think it was relief at that stage. You know that You've got a home game against Scotland coming up, which you fancy yourself at home, and like ultimately then it's going to go down to a shootout in England. And I've been on the receiving end of a couple of last minute losses or draws to Wales. There was one at the Aviva shortly after the World Cup in 2011, and they are heartbreaking. You talk about scoring just before half time. Well, drawing or losing a game in the last moments of a game is the hardest way to take a game, and especially a game when we felt so much was at stake for us.
And you've got the bonus point there in the last play of the game, which
It's a real illustration, Rory, of the margins being so fine. We probably got out of jail in Paris. If that ball is a foot higher over Jacob Stockdale's head, Wales win that game. And they all add up, I know, in the winning of a Grand Slam, but it could have gone the other way on so many occasions over the course of the 5 games.
Yeah, it is, and I think when you look back at these moments, and you just have to put yourself in position to make sure that you make the most of them. I think that the big thing for us was after the let off against France was that we got better. I think our performance against Wales was really good defensively. I remember afterwards Andy Farrell being really annoyed with how soft some of the tries were, but it was a better performance by the team. France was we were scrappy, and we just sort of tried to hold on. And I think that's the big thing. We got that let off against France, and we built our performances, and we were a lot better.
Rob, from your point of view, relief is obviously the overriding emotion, but we have had a couple of people in touch with us on social media tonight. Shane Donnelly has been watching us in Dubai, wants to know, at what point did you guys start talking Grand Slam, or at the very least start thinking Grand Slam to yourselves?
You're always sort of, thinking Grand Slam a little bit. Paris up is the first big one, and after that drop kick, you start thinking, maybe this campaign could be something a little bit special for us. Wales at home was then going to be the very big one. We've been beaten by them a few times at home, like Rory said, and very good team who put it up to us that day. But I suppose once you get through that game, now we've gotten the bonus point, which can sometimes be huge when it comes down to the final day and points difference. So I suppose when you're in the changing room after that game, you're thinking, okay, yeah, now the Grand Slam is something that is becoming very much in our sights.
Is there a feeling that the side is playing well, Rory, or are you aware at how close you have come to potentially losing 2 of the first 3 games, and that if you don't start going through the gears, the prospect of winning a slam on St. Patrick's Day against England at Twickenham is a far away one?
There was aspects of our game. Well, we were retaining the ball really well. We were carrying hard. We were physical, and it was good. By and large, our work under the high ball from kicks were. But it was an area that we kind of prided ourselves on the previous few years. Teddy Thomas score a very soft try in Paris. We conceded a few points in the last quarter against Italy. There was a lot of soft tries against Wales, and we kind of went. We wanted to be close to a perfect performance, and it was our defence. And there was a real moment where it was almost like we were letting Faz down as well. I think his plan, his plan was X, Y, and Z, and we filling it the way we should have done and the way we been training.
Okay, well, lads, listen, it's been an absolute
wanted
pleasure.
to
Maybe
attack
one
so
final
much
shout
that we
for our
almost taken our eye off the
nominated
ball in
charity,
defence.
nominated by their charity partners Vodafone tonight. It is Childline. If you are in a position to make a donation, we'd really appreciate it tonight. We hope you enjoyed reliving that brilliant game at the Aviva Stadium a couple of years ago. It's ispcc.ie/donate-now. We might leave the last word to Johnny Waters and Tony Doolan, lads, because they've both been on social media tonight sending thanks to the pair of you for the great memories that we've relived this evening. It's a lot easier to watch it back 18 months on, Rob, I guess it is, then having to watch it back in the days after beating the Welsh and Joe Schmidt pointing out all of your flaws in defence.
Yeah,
collectively, I mean, not you individually.
Yeah, it is a hell of a lot nicer, and it's even nicer knowing what comes down the line 2 weeks after that Welsh game. So I'm sure there'll be lots of people now going on to YouTube to watch that actual Grand Slam game against England and Twickenham, which, Rory says you're always trying to get the perfect performance, but that was as close to perfect, I think, as we got throughout that whole 2018 campaign.
Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people will want to sit down and watch that game for Twickenham, what was probably the coldest day in the history of the Six Nations. Rory Best, Rob Kearney, thank you so much for your time tonight. It's been a blast. To all of you who've been watching us on social media tonight, we really hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for all of those who have made a donation to the Child Line, to the ISPC. Stay safe, stay distant, and let's all get through these next few weeks. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.